Okay, guys, we got Steve Henson here. JJ, you want to get us started?
Hey, Steve, how you doing today?
Great. How you guys doing?
Not too bad. Thanks for joining us. How have you guys managed through this break here? How have the guys looked?
It's been good. It's been real good. We kind of made a late adjustment and allowed some of the Texas kids to go spend a couple days with their families leading up to Christmas. That really was not the plan. I didn't think that was going to happen. But we can just continue to monitor the situation. That was the decision that we came up with. And so we were eagerly awaiting those results when we got back and took those tests. But everything went well again. We've had some good stretches here. I guess we took basically 3.5 days off, and then got back to work. We practiced 26th and 27th, then took a day off, and then came back again last couple of days. So been real locked in the last two practices on real specifically for Rice. The first two practices after Christmas were just general practices to work on stuff we need to work on all year long. Very, very competitive. 26th, maybe one of the best post-Christmas practices I've ever been a part of, to be honest with you. I was really, really pleased with that. That can be a tough practice when you come back to get everybody locked in and going again, but it was really, really good, really competitive and spirited. Set a good tone for us, I think, moving forward.
How would you assess your team's play through the non-conference schedule? How would you say they did?
It's been so hard to really to figure out where we're at. You know, we played pretty well, I would say, against the non-D1 opponents. Some of those numbers are going to be a little bit skewed because we had some advantages in those ball games. Certainly, we were very disappointed in our play at UTRGV and at Oklahoma. So just kind of real inconsistent sample size at this point. Felt good about our game against Lamar. Did a lot of good things defensively in that ball game. Had a bunch of different guys score. So there's some positives there. It still feels like we're working through some things, trying to get a little more comfortable on the offensive end. We did some talking in our meetings. I didn't realize this group right now, we're actually, again, our sample size of opponents is kind of all over the map. But offensively, we're more efficient than we've been really to any point. And that was a little surprising. You know, we have several guys that have not really clicked and haven't really shot it the way we anticipate them shooting it. We don't feel like we're playing anywhere near our potential offensively. But our points per possession right now ranks us higher than our teams in the past have. And I think that's a result of you know, we've got guys coming off the bench shooting very high percentages. Luka and Jacob are third and fourth leading scorers right now, shooting very high percentages. I think you guys commented on the choppy game against Lamar. You know, it wasn't smooth, but there were a lot of positives there. We're getting fouled a lot. We got fouled 29 times in that game. We shot a ton of free throws. Watching the film, we drove it at them 35 times. We threw it in the post 10 times. Those are some things that we have not had in the past. So you're seeing maybe some stretches that don't look quite as smooth. We all love when Javon and Keaton get transition threes and pop games open, but right now we're doing it in a little different fashion and feel pretty good about that. And defensively, I like where we're at. I think we're showing some real good signs on the defensive end.
Go ahead, Greg.
Sorry about that.
Steve, this is the second period now where you guys have had about a week and a half between games to kind of focus on yourselves and just practice. Is that valuable at this time of year, or would you rather be in kind of a more normal rhythm of the season?
I've liked it. I think the last, you know, once we got things rolling there, we got off to a rough start with having that first game canceled. But the schedule's been okay. You know, to win that last game before Christmas always makes Christmas better. Sends you into the break feeling good, excited about coming back, knowing that conference conference play is looming. I think we're going to go into it feeling pretty good. We still know that we've got some things that really need improvement. Again, sometimes after Christmas, you like to come in and play one more game that is not a conference game, but that just wasn't possible this year. So I like the balance of having a few days off getting a few good practices in, have another day off, and now really locked in on Rice. Our schedule moving forward for the next 8 or 9 weeks, with the exception of the UTEP week, the schedule is very, very consistent. We know what day we'll have off. We've talked amongst our staff about what we want to do on Mondays and Tuesdays, how we want to take advantage of four straight days of practice leading into each opponent. So there's going to be a lot of consistency, we hope. I shouldn't say that in this era, the way things have been going, but aside from COVID issues, things should be very consistent moving forward.
How do you set your goals and expectations for the conference season then? Is that something you talk to the team about what they can accomplish?
Well, we're not in great detail. We talked about the excitement now of a new season. You're typically talking about your non-conference season and your conference season and postseason play. So this week has got new life, new energy, opportunity to try to get off to a great start. Go over there and play Rice 2 games in a row. The importance of getting off to a good start in conference play. We've talked about that. We talked about where we're at isn't really important. What's important is that we continue to get better. If we play a little bit better this weekend than we've been playing, we'll have a chance to win. And that's what we need to do. And then we'll come back and try to get a little bit better and prepare for the next opponent. But I like our guys. The mindset's been pretty good. Again, it hasn't been as smooth, especially on the offensive end. We haven't looked the way we thought we might. But I was pretty excited to read some of those analytics numbers that say we're a little more efficient in terms of compared to the rest of the country. We're ranked higher than we have been in the past. So that was kind of a nice discovery.
And how do you feel looking ahead to the conference season about the way the schedule shakes out? Obviously, it's a little bit unbalanced where not everybody gets to play each other. Just what do you think that dynamic is going to have in terms of an impact on the competitive balance?
With all the stuff that's gone on, with what we've watched, for me, it's watching football, college football, how they've had to deal with things. I don't know that our guys have paid that much attention to all of the workings of college football and cancellations of which leagues started earlier and which started later. But I followed that very, very closely. And the thought of having normalcy and having fairness is been thrown out the window a long time ago. So we're not going to concern ourselves with that. There's some opponents on our schedule that we're not playing, and in some cases we're disappointed because there's some of those opponents we would really like to play. And so it's just part of it. We're thrilled that we were able to get in 7 non-conference games. We made the decision to not play in an MTE. We were able to get our games in. Now we're just hoping we get a bunch of conference games in and continue to play better. But yeah, there's going to be some weird situations. Not playing people in your own league is very odd, obviously. If there is cancellations or postponements, that's going to throw in some more questions as we move along here. But we just can't waste energy worrying about those things that are out of our control.
The league announced that they're going to look at things kind of in a divisional format in terms of crowning division champions and seeding the conference tournament. Do you have any thoughts on that, and whether that's a good thing for the league, maybe something that could stick around going forward?
Yeah, we've talked about that in our league meetings multiple times. There are a lot of advantages to having divisions. Over the years, conferences have continued to get bigger and bigger. 14 teams would be, years ago, that 7-team league was not uncommon. 7 or 8 teams in a league was kind of normal. Now 14, 16 is normal. So having some divisions can provide a lot of positives, can give you some key games late in the conference play. Now the way we're doing it this year, we're just playing the schedule, but then basically ranking the results based on divisions. So it's kind of a unique way of looking at it this year, but there are a lot of positives to having divisions. You can get, some of those games with 3 or 4 weeks left in the season might have more meaning within your division race. I think it's good. I think what the league is trying to do this year might lead to some future conversations. Now, in the past, just to be real honest, we've gone down this path. There's a lot of logistical issues. You lose your travel partners. You can't have 7 and 7 and have travel partners. So, then the question was, well, do we go with one division with 6 and one division with 8? And it gets pretty messy when you go down that road. But I like the fact that they're thinking through it in that regard.
The way it worked out this year, you guys are not going to play Marshall or Western Kentucky or Old Dominion, and those might be the 3 top teams in the East. Do you feel like you guys might even be at an advantage the way it worked out this season?
Well, if you start doing that, you drive yourself crazy. I mean, we've had some pretty good success against a couple of those teams. Some of the top teams. We've lost to some of the teams that were so-called, or not so-called, but teams that were bottom half. We've struggled against some of those teams. So the fact that we don't have to travel all the way to those places is kind of nice. I know that those are rough road trips, but our guys get excited to play some of those opponents, and if we have a good season and then are denied that opportunity to play them, I think our guys will probably be a little disappointed that we don't get to play them. But I think our league is doing the best they can. They tried to set up a lot of regional opportunities. Now, obviously, we go all the way to Florida, and so there's some things that don't quite make sense. But again, it's hard when you lay out the blueprint and try to factor in 14 games. It gets really, really hard. 14 opponents, 13 opponents.
And they left, I think, 1 week at the end for possible reschedulings. Do you anticipate that that's going to be sufficient, that this will go smoothly, or do you think you'll hit some snags along the way here?
Yeah, your guess is as good as mine. As we continue to watch, there's a lot of teams playing right now, but there's also 1 or 2 or 3 teams shutting down every day. So to think that we'll go along in our league and not have some issues at some point would probably be wishful thinking. But yeah, to have at least one set of time designated to make up some games is good. If there's multiple cancellations or postponements, then we would have to find a way to jam those games in earlier in the weeks, I guess. I don't know the process of when do we decide to postpone, when do we decide to cancel. Again, our league has been through that with football already, so I'm sure they've got some good ideas on that. But all our focus right now is on having a good practice tomorrow and seeing if we can beat Rice the next day.
Are you guys at least prepared for the dynamic of the back-to-backs? Having gone through that a couple times this season, do you think that that's going to be an advantage?
Yeah, I think that what we've done to this point, having a couple of those already, will help us. It's the fact that we're playing the same team. We assume we'll go back to the hotel and watch a little film and make some adjustments. If we play poorly, we'll probably try to look at more adjustments. If we play well, we'll try to figure out what worked and what we anticipate the opponent doing. But yeah, it's these guys from a physical standpoint, it's not a difficult thing at all. We like to think we practice pretty hard, so we're practicing 3 or 4 days in a row all the time. So to play 2 games in a row, from a physical standpoint, shouldn't be tough. It's just our guys are going to have to be ready to make some adjustments.
And then lastly for me, are you guys healthy at this point in the year? I know you guys, at the last game, it seemed like there were some guys limping around and maybe a couple turned ankles there. I don't know how everybody came out of that game.
Yeah, we're in pretty good shape. Again, out there today, you see a guy get bumped, knocked down. Our guys are diving on the floor more, which is good. Our guys are playing hard. They're getting treatment with Josh, but nothing of any real concern at this point. Adrian Rodriguez, I think, has probably got the most significant lingering injury, and he continues to feel good. Every day that goes by, he continues to get better and feel healthier. So we've been pretty fortunate in that regard all the way through, really. With the COVID, with the normal injuries and sicknesses, we've had a lot of guys that practice every day, and very rarely have we had to, like anybody. There have been, like I said, a few sprained ankles, a few guys have had to miss a few practices, but we've been pretty healthy.
Jerry, go ahead.
Yeah, Coach, I was going to write a little something on Eric Zumbel, and I wanted to just ask you if you could reflect back on the first time Eric set foot in the Convocation Center for a practice. Do you recall what your first impression of him, after walking out of that practice, just what your first impression of Eric was?
Well, I don't remember specifically, but it's probably what it is virtually every day since then. Just a great teammate, a very, very tough, focused, conscientious, good player. You talk about everyday guys. He's an everyday guy. He's very, very tough physically. He tries to do exactly what you tell him. He's a word-for-word guy. You tell him to go and pick on the wing at a certain angle. He's going to go and do it exactly the way you tell him to do it. The early thoughts were naturally we were going to compare him to Giovanni, and they both have leadership qualities. They have some similarities with their toughness, but they're drastically different personalities. Giovanni was very loose and carefree. Eric is very serious and focused. But both of them are competitive guys, team first guys. He's been really, really good. We've had to work on him, trying to get him to play with the same level of physicality and intensity defensively, but foul less. If you remember early in his freshman year, he was constantly in foul trouble. Kind of got through that. Got that behind him. Learned games officiated a little bit differently. Learned how to space guys out. He's made a lot of progress on that end. So he's reverted back to that a little bit here in some of these ball games. We're trying to get him, avoid those fouls. But great teammate, tough, focused, serious. Guys love him.
Are you surprised, Steve, that what strikes me about Eric just in his sophomore year is how much confidence he has at at this stage of his development. Are you surprised that he is playing like this? As a sophomore, confidence-wise.
I'm not. I think it's been a pretty natural progression for him. Now the shooting percentage is incredible, and we're very excited about that. We obviously desperately need three-point shooting and guys to shoot high percentages. But he kind of came in as a reputation of not being a good shooter. We were a little surprised at that. I may be stereotyping a little bit, but a lot of times we talk to some of these international kids and their coaches and mentors are maybe a little more blunt than the American kids. A lot of times people are just pumping these American kids up and positive and unrealistic in some cases. And American kids have a hard time looking at themselves objectively and realistically. And it's been some of our international kids are just blunt and they'll tell you, I'm a bad shooter, or I'm not a good athlete. And there's some brutal honesty in some cases. But his reputation was that he was not a great three-point shooter, and if we could get him to become a good three-point shooter, he could be a good player. And certainly he was a good player prior to shooting the ball the way he is now, and that just adds to it. So I think some of the stuff you're seeing in addition to the shooting is, he's more comfortable, been in the country for a year, the language barrier, all that stuff. I think it's just kind of natural. He's growing into a leader. He's comfortable with his role. He knows he is a starter. Right now he's coming off the bench, but in our minds he's a starter, and he's going to be in the game at key points in the game. We have a lot of confidence in him. His teammates have a lot of confidence in him. He affects the game even when he's not scoring. If you look at his plus-minus numbers in some of these recent ball games, it's been phenomenal what the impact he's had even when he's not taking shots. So the players respect him, and the coaches have a lot of confidence in him.
Coach, if you were trying to game plan against the Roadrunners, would you, like moving into this conference season, would you tend to pay a little more attention to Eric out there on the perimeter now than teams have in the past? Because I know, he's had a lot of wide open looks to this point. How would you play him going into this conference season?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's something we talked about. Again, I think some people that when they first get ready to prepare for us, are probably a little surprised right now looking at some of our numbers. You know, everybody is so familiar with Keaton and Javon and their impact. And so I think people probably anticipate in their first game prep looking at us and then being a little surprised. I mean, you know, I don't know if you guys have looked, if you combine Jacob and Luka right now, they're averaging 18 points and 11 rebounds a game and playing 31 minutes. I mean, that's 31. One guy can play 31 minutes. You know, 18 and 11 from our center spot, and that's not counting Phoenix and Adrian, who are also contributing some good percentages and some good results. So if you look at our team and see those guys, and then like I said, Zumbel shooting at a very, very high clip. He's taking great shots. He's feeding off inside-out plays. Again, that's not something you've seen from our program a lot the last couple of years, is inside-out shots. Luka's kicking it out to Eric a lot. Eric Parrish is getting penetration, kicking it out to Eric. So his quality of shots is very, very good. We're hoping it continues to relieve pressure on Keaton and Javon. You know, if Jacob and Luka can keep scoring, if Parrish can keep making plays. You know, Parrish is kind of, you know, he's making some things happen with his steals. He's rebounding the ball. He can distribute. He can kick it out of the post. He can drive it. We hope we're becoming a more well-rounded team on the offensive end. Eric giving us good direction at the point guard and spotting up, making threes. He's conscious. He's very, very noticeably trying to make more happen in practice. He's a very conservative player, which certainly has its positives. He's not turning the ball over much, but he's cautious. You can see at times in practice now he's starting to get a little more comfortable driving it, finishing at the rim, keep the floor spaced. He's not real quick, but he's strong. He can get down in there and attack that glass a little bit more.